to another one of these awesome Q&A sessions. I love doing these Q&As, and I love getting your questions for these Q&As. So guys, keep them rolling. They really do feed the show. They feed me. They make me think about stuff as well, and it gives us a good idea of what are you thinking and where you're going, and what are you looking for going forward, and what are you thinking. So vitally important, and I love that communication that I can have with you about markets, trends, where things are going, what things are happening. I put a little question out with regards 2025, and just to kind of gauge, what people's feelings are about 2025. And I got a lot of questions coming in, just asking my opinion and where I see things running in 2025. Now, this is the first show, in fact, that we're doing in 25. So I do apologize. It might have been a little bit quiet over December, January, but I had a great holiday in the first week and a half of January, and I've come back and I'm revved and ready to go. Excited to be here. And as you can see, I'm in a different office this time. I'm sitting in what I call my summer office. So it's a cooler office downstairs. It's not as neat and tidy as the other one. But I thought I'd share that with you. And yes, you can see up in the corner there's all our luggage ready to go on the next holiday. Not too soon though. Anyway, so yeah, thank you again to everybody who contributes to the show, for sending notes in, for sending your questions in, and welcome back to 2025. We're going to dive into the future of Australia's commercial real estate market in 25. So let's dive in and answer a couple of questions. Okay. So I'm not going to go through everybody's names. You'll know which questions you've asked, and if they do come up, then I'll let you know. So Quinton's asked me what's happening in the office space in 2025. Well, Quinton, very, very interesting question. Great question. Thank you for asking, because I think a lot of people are sort of shying away from office space, but there's some beautiful new things that are happening in the office space. And we're seeing a huge divide between premium grade office space with modern amenities, with strong environmental credentials, and they're in super high demands. Now, you've actually got some companies that are going in, that are buying office space that I would say would probably be slightly below market, because office spaces has really hurt. And what they're doing is they are implementing entertainment centers. So for those people who are working in those office spaces, they're saying, hang on, what do those people need? Well, they need to eat, they need to relax, they need some greenery around them. So what they're doing is huge revamps of these office spaces and making them far more user-friendly for people who are working in the office, that they can go at lunchtime and chill out on a little patch of grass and have, a relaxed picnic lunch, or maybe meet up with a friend in a coffee shop. And they're introducing gyms, and they're introducing novel new sort of things to do. One's got a soak house, the bath, the relaxation bath houses, so that people can either go there before work, during work, or after work, and they can feel comfortable in those spaces. So this is creating a huge divide between those premium office spaces. What this company in particular is doing is holding on to those assets that they are turning around. And obviously we're talking about a good couple of million in that category, and they're spending good money on that as well. $1 million to $2 million upgrade easily on a 10 to 15 million property. And what they're trying to do is attract the employees back into those top-notch places. Then again, we have a look at the flip side of that. So secondary office spaces are really struggling. So your secondary office spaces would be just your Joe Bloggs ordinary office space that don't have those kind of facilities. However, those office spaces, if you're a wise investor and one of the huge consortiums, and a lot of the REITs are starting to work in this space where they are redeveloping and renovating huge office space. If you're a smart investor, you'll go and buy something right next door because that has a knock-on effect for you. Okay. And there are a couple of strategies that you can do as well. You might be able to organize or negotiate something where your office space might have use to their amenities. And if they've got restaurants and cafes and gyms and all of that, they would welcome you in there. And let's face it, it's more revenue for them. So there's some smart strategies that you can think about if you can't afford the $15 million office space, but you can afford a $5 million office space and it's close by. Happy days. There we go. So many of them are actually, so this is all a matter of repurposing. You got in a couple of the big cities where office spaces are being repurposed into residential or mixed use developments, particularly where planning regulations allow it. So again, quite a tricky thing, long term, can be done. And let's face it, there's a shortage of housing. So there's a glut of these properties that are available for these conversion into mixed use and residential. And I have it from information from one of the good agents that I'm using, that I'm working with, that Gina Reinhardt apparently is investing in office space. So what does that tell you? They are seeing the potential in where the market's not moving, they're moving into. So, this is all about follow the money. Okay, so we got one from Jeff also with regards what's happening in industrial real estate. So he's asking, how's the industrial real estate shaping up? Look, it's the sweetheart of the country. What can I say? Industrial is what everybody wants, right? So the industrial sector is expected to remain the star performer. I mean, we have on average 80,000 kilometers worth of industrial requirements right across the whole of Australia, which means that we're 80,000 kilometers short of industrial space. Why has that happened? A number of reasons. Because of what happened in 2017 with APRA, with lending, there was a huge handbrake on developing, and it didn't only affect industrial and commercial, it affected residential. As we all know, we've got a huge housing shortage, and so there are a number of factors. And since COVID, same sort of thing, where it's just created that huge demand. So quite honestly, the developers cannot spin these things out fast enough. Thanks to the continued growth of e-commerce, massive pressure for industrial. There's a strong demand for warehouses, for logistic hubs, for manufacturing facilities, and of course for last mile logistics. So last mile logistics is after it's gone through manufacturing and everything, it is the distribution center that basically sends it from order to door. So it's the last distribution center. Companies are booming and they're focusing on getting their products to customers faster, hence wanting to third party their deliveries and using last mile logistic kind of companies. It's also worth noting that private investors are heavily invested and focused on this sector, and that's why I say it's the sweetheart of commercial real estate right now. Everybody wants industrial, especially in the smaller industries, and there's and units with value add. So anything where you can add value, everybody is clamoring on there. But the news is out. So if you're looking for something like this, you've got to know the strategies and jump in. Roll up your sleeves and get involved. Okay, so Mike has asked, what's the retail sector looking like in 2025? So retail, Mike, retail is adapting to some really interesting ways. So all the big shopping malls and the retail spaces that combine traditional shopping centers are combining entertainment centers. With online integration, we're thriving. I'll tell you a little story. I went to one of the Cotton On. I went and bought some beautiful clothing at Cotton On, and I was surprised when I got to the counter because they didn't have my size in one of the colors that I wanted. And the attendant said to me, "Hey, have you heard of store to door?" And I said, "No, I don't know anything about it." So instead of buying it online, she said, "No, you can just pay for it now while you're busy paying for your other stuff. So we'll just add it on and we'll deliver it to your door free of charge. Wow. So that is really interesting. And that was in one of the big shopping malls. So there's this integration that's starting to happen, this thinking outside of the box, which is really amazing. It's absolutely amazing and that's going to keep a certain sector of retail flowing and going, because quite honestly, those retail centers are not empty. They are crowded, packed. People are still spending crazy. And again, what they're doing in the retail sector is they're making it an experiential retail experience, and it's absolutely key to keep more of those people in there, to make it more, to bring more entertainment in. They just don't just want to go there for shopping. They want to jump onto whatever is trendy, with other trends, and watch the luxury retail market grow. Everybody wants to be shopping where there's a luxury retail market. And this is happening mainly in the big cities, so a lot in Sydney, and also becoming a hotspot for global brands. So the global brands are still wanting to be seen in those cities. And a good example of that is integrating kids sort of entertainment areas, indoor golfing, so bringing a lot of those entertainment. So you've got always food, restaurants, and all of that, so hospitality, but closely bound in with action activities as well. So that's what's happening in the big malls. For the small malls, they're always going to have their space. So you've got your neighborhood shopping centers. They're always going to have a space and a place, because that is exactly what, you don't want to go to a big shopping center. You just want to go down the road and get your hair cut, or go to the barber, or, that sort of thing. So those places are always going to have a space. So it's what I always say, it's not a matter about what you're buying, it's what you do with it that matters. So even if you're buying smaller retail or you're buying shopping centers, it's what you do with it that is going to make the difference. Okay, so moving on. I had an interesting question here about, and this was from Bill, about built to rent developments and what's happening in that space. I got to be honest with you, Bill, I had to go and check this out a little bit, because it's not really commercial, it's more sort of residential. But be it as it may, we're speaking about it. So kind of the trend is retail at the bottom, and then you've got residential. And the built to rent space is all about creating residential that the developers don't sell. So they build it, and the purpose is that they're renting it out. So it's a revenue income stream and an asset that they would hold onto. So the built to rent sector is happening in a big way at the moment. And we just spoke about, if you can do this in cities, it's change of use. It's a real pain if you're converting office to accommodation. There's big expenses with regards to that, and if councils allow it. So fresh built to rent, yes, it's a great solution for housing affordability and supply issues. So in Victoria, for instance, they plan to complete houses. They plan to complete 4,500,000 built to rent apartments in 2025. And that's a win-win for renters who want flexibility, and for investors seeking long-term opportunities as well. Okay, so like I say, I'm not very au fait with that space, but very good for accommodating people. Okay, so Jessica has asked me, what's the investment climate looking like in 2025? Well, Jessica, I've pretty much answered a lot of that, but let's dive into it and have a look at it. I would say positive all the way. Everybody's waiting for those interest rates to come down. So everybody's sitting and saying, interest rates ease. Yes, please. Absolutely. We're waiting for it. When that does happen, I think it's going to boost a lot of investor confidence and spark more transactions right across all sectors. So I think a lot more people that have been sitting on the sidelines are now saying, we can afford it, interest rates coming down, boom, they're wanting to jump in. There's a lot of private investors that will be incredibly active in that space. And when I say private investors, we're talking about fairly substantial, sizable portfolios, 10 million plus, and they're going to be focusing on assets with strong fundamentals and potentially value add improvements. Like I mentioned, the office space, that is private investment. It's a lot of private money, and they always look for the opportunity for those value add investments. So what is 25 looking like? Jump in. I reckon people have asked me for the last 35 years, when's a good time to buy? Guys, I have been purchasing property in the good times and the bad times, and I can tell you every single time has been a good time to purchase commercial real estate, because it doesn't really go backwards as fast as what residential might, and you've always got a little buffer on it. So that's my opinion, purely my opinion. Okay, so Kelly has sent a question. Are sustainability and environmental, social, government factors still being a big deal? Kelly, absolutely, absolutely. If government's involved, then they definitely are pushing those sustainability and environmental, social factors. There's more, I'd say that they're probably more important than ever before. Investors and tenants are prioritizing properties with very strong sustainability credentials. And what are we talking about? Green buildings are no longer a nice to have. So councils are saying, you want to build a huge big block of concrete, you need to bring green in. What are you going to do to green it up, or to make it far more environmentally or socially acceptable? And they very much have, particularly in the new development space. So they're looking for buildings, and they're trying to make buildings that are particularly environmentally friendly. And, you know, in the older buildings, it's a little bit difficult, and they can't force you to renovate with that environmentally friendly aspect in mind. However, if you have the opportunity to, and you can, then they most certainly are going to motivate for that. So very big factor, huge one. Okay. Kenny, you've asked me what changes are on the horizon. Well, Kenny, if I had a crystal ball, I think I would be a very wealthy woman. So what challenges are on the horizon? Look, challenges. We always have challenges. No matter what year it is, whether it's a good year or it's a bad year, there are always fundamental challenges in that year. And it's what you do with those challenges that are going to, say, make or break your situation. So there are always challenges. At the moment, there's economic uncertainty. There's political and policy changes. There are policy changes that we don't even know about. There's the global market and conditions. You've got our friend Donald Trump that's busy declaring war on the Middle East. What is that going to do? I mean, is he going to get that right? Is he going to forge that forward? We don't know. You know, that's most certainly going to have a huge impact on our challenges that we're going to have to face and deal with along the way. Whatever those are, we don't know. We're always dealing with headwinds, you know, and we got to push through them. But overall, I'd say that the market seems very well positioned, especially for investors and who are adaptable and keep their eye on emerging markets. Now, I did a show recently on government spending, and I would highly, highly, highly advise, if you haven't seen that show on government spending, go and check it out. Have a look at where we're talking about government spending, because where the money goes, the prosperity flows. Okay, so where government is spending, and government have allocated a huge chunk of spend post-COVID to just reboot the economy, and that is where the money is going to be flowing. So jump onto that one, was a couple of months ago, and we'll see you on the next one. So thanks so much, everybody, for joining me. I think this is a fascinating time. It's a great year. I'm looking forward to 2025, where we will all thrive. 2025, year to thrive. There we go. Australia's commercial real estate. And if you have more questions, please send them through. I love getting your questions. If you've got specific topics that you want to discuss, send it through. I'd happily do a whole show on your specific topic of interest. Just send us a message. Stay tuned. If you're listening to this on YouTube, we've got heaps of show on the podcast. If you're on the podcast, have a look at YouTube because there's heaps of show on YouTube. And go to revolvecommercial.com.au if you want to have a one-on-one with myself. Reach out, book a call, and let's connect. Let's discuss further. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate your support and chat to you soon.